Welcome, fellow model riveters, to my latest project. Well, actually, this isn't my latest project. This one has been in the works for quite a while. It is going to be eventually a Maine Central 1700 to 1789 series pulpwood car. This model started life, as you can see, it said Maine Central on it. You can see the Pine Tree Herald there. This was a lifelike. It began life as a lifelike gondola, 40-foot gondola. I purchased on eBay for a couple of bucks. And it has been modified, as you can see, to resemble the pulpwood cars of the Maine Central, as I said, 1700 to 1789. These were built in the 1960s at the Maine Central shop in Waterville. According to what I use for my background information on this is photographs, books, what is it, the Freight Cars of Northern New England, Colored Freight Cars Book of Northern, whatever that's called. And I also have a copy of the Freight Car Class Book of the Maine Central, which was given to me back in the 60s when I was a little boy, and I asked the Maine Central for some information. I will photocopy the relevant page. There's a scale diagram. I'll slip it in here. There's a scale diagram of the car with information down below about the journal bearings and when they were converted and what the series numbers were before the conversion and things like that. I don't see the date on here. I'm looking for it, but these were converted in the 1960s. I think it was 68-ish. It might have been, here we go. 1750 to 74 were converted in 1968. 67 was the earlier series. So take your pick. And it does say that they were converted from the 17,000 series gondolas. Those were the low side gondolas that you can buy the model from Ertls. So this is some of the background information. As for what has been done to this model so far, I cut down the height of the sides because these were quite high. I think these are probably a couple feet higher scale. I cut down the ends all the way around, and then I had to make down to the decking, and I think this probably should be a little shallower, but I'm not going to worry about it at this point. I can't remember. I did check these because I have the scale drawing. I could check the scale height of these and get it pretty accurate. Then I cut this section here at an angle to match. These end bulkheads are Tichy Train Group bulkhead ends, like that. So one pack of those will do it. And I think all this is just leftover pieces. This is a project I began. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I began this project years ago, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. I started this. And what I have, I think, on these sprues is just leftover vertical supports for the bulkheads, these pieces here. I don't know if I needed them. Again, I'm just restarting this project after many years of it gathering dust on my shelf of things to do. I think that's what these things are for, is to go in here. I still have to add, you can see the brake parts here. I have to add brake pieces to the ends, both ends. And so those will be ready to go. And I have no idea what that piece, this one right here, is for. Maybe that's to make a top piece for that. This was from the bulkheads. And there's a set of ladders here too. Again, I don't know what I know what I was going to do with the ladders. I need to add ladders to the ends. Alright, it's been a little bit of time here. I did a few things. The first thing I did was I had to carve off part of the ladder here. I'm going to put a separate ladder casting on here anyways. Like that. So I carved off the ladder so that it'll fit a little more flush. I didn't carve it all off. I also carved off the grab irons, and I'm going to replace those. I would like to replace the stirrup steps, but I went through my stock of spare parts and I don't have any stirrup steps. Not enough. I have one of that style. So those are going to have to stay. And you notice the clamps on there. One of the last things, I think one of the reasons, usually when I get a project like this and it gets put away, it means that I stumbled upon something unexpected that became a problem. So I'll take these clamps off. And does that show up well enough? I think they're KD. Maybe Walther's made those washers. It's a washer bushing, I guess you'd call it, that fits into the truck mounting hole on the lifelike kits. And then what you do is you drill it out a little bit more and put this bushing in place and glue it in. And both of these bushings were crooked. Neither one of them went in square. So I think that's where I gave up. This one's looking pretty good now. I put some new glue on it and clamped it for a while. This one over here is starting to funk up again. Don't know if you can see it, but this end over here is up a little bit higher. And you can see I didn't drill the hole out deep enough, and it's kind of busted out the truck mounting space. So the next thing I really need to do is get the trucks situated. And I've got a pair of Atlas trucks here. And before I do any adding of details, I need to get the trucks mounted and the heights set. I think they're probably too high right now with those bushings in place. It just feels too high. Once I get that set, then I can get the KD couplers in place. And then I'll start. Those are kind of big things. I'm going to have to do some major league filing probably on these to get them in place, in the proper place. Then I can start adding the ladders and the brakes. And I also need to think about what I'm going to do for decking. The freight car plan book says that the floor was made from 3 by 8 inch oak. It's 3 inch deep by 8 inch wide. And just so happens I had some scraps of wood here. I was going to use those, but those are obviously not 3 inches wide scale. They're about, did I say 3 inches? 8 inches wide. They're closer to 3 or 4 inches. So I need to get some styrene, probably scribe styrene, to put down. And the other thing, before I do that, I need to do a little more filing and sanding on the surface. You can see here I used a Dremel cutoff disc, and I got a little bit too low, so I just want to kind of take that down a little bit. And you can see I made some divots on the other side there too. As you can see, a few things have been done to the car now. I've got the trucks installed. I put some pads on for the couplers to attach to. I just wanted to see if this was going to give me the right height or not. It's close. I think I've lowered the trucks a little bit. I was going to take the truck off. I had to basically sand it right down to the level of the old screw hole or mounting hole. They didn't have screws in them. These had pins. So I had to file it right down. Now, one thing I was thinking about just a few minutes ago is I don't know if this underframe will come off of the car, but the air cylinder, that's right, the brake cylinder, is facing this way, which means I would have to have the brake gear on this end of the car. But the brake gear used to be on this end. I carved it off because I want to put separate brake gear on there. So anyways, I've got to see if this can come off so I can put the brakes down there. I also did a little bit of detailing on this end. You can see I attached the ladder. These are a 2x8 HO scale evergreen styrene. I put some added vertical supports here, and then one across the top. I've also carved off the grab irons, and I'm going to put on separate wire grabs. So that's what the ends will look like when I'm done. Except I haven't put the grab irons on yet. And so I have to attach the pieces and parts. There's the ladder and the pieces of 2x8. And you can see I put styrene decking down. So I think these are approximately 8 or 9 inches. This is evergreen styrene. Now the Maine Central cars, they actually had a V-shaped floor to them. The edges were higher than the center. That's done to force the pieces of wood, the piece of pulpwood, to lean in towards the middle of the car, so they're not falling. They're not so apt to fall out. So that little aspect of it, that little detail, won't be done on this model. Could you do that? I suppose one way might be to what was I thinking? Boy, I don't know. Maybe not. I was thinking that if you put a piece of styrene on the ends, on the edges here, you could make it higher on the edges than in the center. But then that would extend this side panel a little bit more. So maybe that's not the way to go. I don't know. Just a thought. If you try this yourself, you might want to use the Ertl cars as a starting point. Not sure if I do this right. I can line up the rungs on the new ladder casting to the rungs that are in the car casting. I'm just noticing that the decking that I put on is extending out a little bit from the sides. I don't know if that's right or wrong. But I'm not liking it. Oh, I was also going to mention that according to the freight car plan book, these cars, the deck sat, was it 4 feet 3 inches? 4 feet 2.5 inches above the rail. And this car is about 5 feet above the rail, so it's a little bit too high still, by about almost a foot. I think probably what should be happening, or what I should try to do, is file down more of the bolsters. Not sure that's going to happen. Don't know if it's that important to me to get them down. As I file that down more and more, what happens is then, since the coupler is pretty close right now, I'd have to file a notch right in here so that the coupler would be higher. I should zoom in a little bit more, I guess. So what I should probably do is take this down almost to the actual bolster right here. Cross member, what's that called? That's not going to take it down a foot, but it will take it about another 6 inches, maybe scale, maybe a little less than that. Not something I like to do because it does, as hard as you try to be careful with this, you're going to make these mounting points a little bit off. It's really difficult to get them perfect. This is a cool little tool I made after an article in one of the modeling magazines years ago to allow you to measure the height of a car. So it's just actually three pieces of styrene, and this is just a channel that sets your rail height right there, and I can measure it with a depth gauge. Now this doesn't measure in scale feet, so I have to come up with my scale rule. And I'm still at just about 5 feet. Almost perfect. That's not bad. It's just a little bit high. Alright. And this is my Katie height gauge here too. A friend of mine made this for me many years ago, 30 plus. And it's set so that this is exactly 2% grade. And if your cars are running correctly lubed, the wheels, if the wheels are correctly lubed, the car should roll down at 2% grade, like that. Next steps, I guess, will be, I got to put the brake gear on the ends, and I need to drill out for my grab irons. I need grab irons on the top. I'm going to need 2 on here and 1 here. I don't know if I'm going to carve off the side grab irons. The scale plans show a ladder type affair on this end, so I'm going to leave that alone. This isn't a super detailed job, in my opinion. I just want to get it. I just want to have a pulpwood car. And hopefully nobody's going to take out the calipers and check it. I believe, by the way, speaking of calipers and checking it, I believe that these are, the bulkheads are the correct height. Not sure. I've got to double check that. Again, I started this project years ago. So, got, all right, I think at this point, it's all done. I have, other than the painting, obviously, and the decaling, I've added grab irons, oops, to the tops of the ladders. I've added the brake gear to the end, and grab irons there, and grab irons on the side right there. Okay, here's our pulpwood flat car, all painted up nice and black. Obviously, I haven't got to the decaling yet. That'll be the next step once the paint dries. This is the end that had the brake wheel on it. You can see the carving job I did on it. And there's that side. And then the brake wheel end, the B end. I was going to spray paint this with spray cans, but I decided to use, this is True Color Paints Weathered Black. I airbrushed it instead. Here we are in my decaling station, and hopefully there's not too much glare. You can see that I've done one side of the car decaling. And what I use for decals for this car, microscale 1028 Maine Central boxcars. And most of what I took was the MEC from up, where was it? I think it's up here, the small MEC. And the capacity data was right in here. It was 80,000 pounds. I think that says 80,000 right there. And a little bit of the inside length, inside width data right there. And some other miscellaneous dates. And I used, there is no L. Does it show up? That doesn't say LP. It should say LP. It's LF. But I think that'll get weathered. I think maybe like a piece of pulpwood hit there and knocked the paint off. And so it got rusty. So there's one side done. And I have all the decals cut out for the second side. And now they're going on. Now back in the day, as they say, I used to use AccuSet decal setting solution. And unfortunately, I didn't know that AccuPaints was going out of business, and I didn't buy a lifetime supply. I wish I had. Because AccuSet worked surprisingly well. It was great, great product. So now I have to use whatever I can get. And I found, oh my gosh, I've got the decal all doubled over. What I like to do is let the decal float in the water, float right off of the paper. Now it does make it a little difficult to get it off. And so I'm probably going to have to put it on the paper again. Great. A little bit of microset. Get it into position. I want it about centered in that segment there. So, I was just using some Solvaset. What I found with the other side was the microscale products didn't really stop the bubbling. I had to put a coat of Solvaset over them. So I'm going to see if I can get some Solvaset underneath them first, if that helps. Alright, so here's going to be WS something date, I think 664, and then the LP, LF. And then this will say BLT, and this will be the inside length, inside width, be this panel here. So take a little bit of water and let that saturate the decal. Well, I cut the dates out. Where's that date? So I've got my decals in a little puddle of water here. I think the BLT lettering should be done. Make sure I don't put my fingers in the wet decals anywhere. So there's the side lettering done. Bring it up. Okay, there's our end lettering in position. Can you see? Looks like it's in the shade up there, the MEC and the number. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be up on the top or if it was supposed to be down here on the gondola body, but that's where it's going. Alright, let's see what we can do now about that black deck. It doesn't look very much like 8x3 inch oak. Oops. I don't know how this paint is going to work. Pretty old and crusty. That's Pulpwood foundation. This is Floquil Railroad Tie Brown. Okay. Now in my petri dish here, is that in the camera? I have some powdered artist pigment that I bought. This stuff was pretty expensive. I bought for weathering, probably in 1980, probably 40 years ago. And you know, you can put it on dry. What I like to do is put it on wet. Does that look like oak decking? Except for the spots over here. That can wipe off when it dries. Right, the car, it's going to need a flat coat. The wheels need some paint. It's going to need a flat coat and some weathering. Well, folks, it's been a while since I did anything with the Pulpwood car. And the next stage, I've done a little bit of weathering, but it's going to need some more. The next stage is to make a load for it, though. And for that process, I have here a little jig that my brother made probably 20 odd years ago for making pulpwood stacks. And I've already started. And what he did is he set it up so that he made marks over here so it's 38 feet, 36 feet. I don't think I want to go any longer than that. I don't know what that says right there, 30 maybe. And then he has lines here for 6 foot high and 8 foot. I've already got it up to about 6 feet. And I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go any higher with it. What I will have to do with this car, let's see, the bulkheads go out or splay out, and so what I'm going to have to do is make the load square and then probably have to fit it to the car bulkheads eventually. And this is only one side of the load too. I'll talk a little bit about making these and how I do it using my brother's jig. So in this, you can't see it. In this Tupperware type container, plastic storage container, food storage container, I have lots of little pieces of wood. I don't know why this is in here, can't remember. What I find is best is go out in my garden or out in my yard, my woods, and I cut a small branch. And I'm trying to find an example of one. Here it is. You're best to use a tree species or plant species which has opposite branching. And you see on this one, the little buds are opposite each other. That's what opposite branching means. The reason or the advantage of using plants that have opposite branching is that they tend to make a straighter stem. plants that have diagonal branching or diagonal buds tend to zigzag, and so you don't get much of a straight section to cut from. This is a pretty good supply. I think this will probably do the car, but this is probably an hour of cutting, snip, 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 and I've got just a pair of garden shears that I use, that I made a little metal bracket that's taped to the side of it to give me about 4 foot long. So what I do is I take a little bit of clear wood glue. I could use Elmer's type wood glue, doesn't matter. And I pour a little puddle in here. You can hear chugging in the background, my Maine Central switcher. And then normally I would put this bucket in front of me, but I'm trying to get it on camera here. And then I just pick out pieces of wood and glue them in place. Now the smaller the better, really. It's hard for me to... When I have a bunch of sticks in the bucket, I tend to reach for the bigger ones because I know that they will make my load fill up faster. But real pulpwood loads were pretty small. Okay, it's been a couple, 3 hours. Let's see how the glue has dried, if the glue has dried. So main thing I want to do right now is test fit it to the car. Is it going to be close? Ooh, that's pretty darn good. Okay, a little wax paper. And now okay, folks, welcome back. The Maine Central 40-foot pulpwood car is now complete with load, with weathering. I'll take the load out. You can see the deck. And I did the yellow striping on the bulkhead ends. These do have a horizontal stripe and a vertical stripe on each bulkhead. And another thing I noticed when I was looking at my pictures is, I'll turn this around a little bit. For those of you interested in weathering, interestingly enough, because these were loaded with 4-foot pulpwood, there was a line of rust down here and a line of rust down here from getting whacked all the time by the sticks of pulpwood. And ditto, obviously, down there and down there. And so there it is with the pulpwood loaded. And looking not too shabby. I have one more I'm going to do. I just pulled the Erdl gondola out of my stock, and I have another set of bulkheads. Oh, and another thing I'll mention, I think I might have said earlier on that I wasn't sure if the bulkhead ends were made of steel or wood. And the picture, I have a picture of one sitting empty in Maine, and the bulkheads are clearly made of steel. And the decking is clearly made of wood. It's really badly splintered and busted up. And the pulpwood car in the background is an International Paper IP car. I remember seeing those again when I used to work for an International Paper Company in Maine, and we used to see them. Yeah, I didn't work in the mill. I worked in the woodlands department, but anyways, we used to see them on the rails heading to Jay. And I have a picture of one in Waterville Yard. That's where it was. I'm trying to remember. So there's the 40 footer. These loads are a little bit loose. You can see this one's really shrunk, I guess, from drying out. I dipped them in matte medium to try and hold the moisture in. And I'll say after this one was dipped in matte medium, it wouldn't fit back down into the bulkhead, between the bulkheads, but it's pretty loose now. Anyways, there we are. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you made it through everything, and I hope you liked the video. And if you did, please leave a thumbs up down below there. And if you would like to make a comment or a suggestion, you can do that down below too. I think it's over there on the left-hand side. And way over on the right, over here someplace, over here, where's my finger? Way over here, there's a subscribe button too. So anyways, thanks a lot for viewing. I hope you liked it. Have a great time using model railroading. I really get a kick out of doing this stuff. Bye-bye for now.